Before charts, models, or economics textbooks existed, one man noticed something most systems still fail to see. Wealth does not rise in a straight line. Power does not accumulate forever. An unchecked prosperity carries the seeds of its own decline. This was not a theory developed in a university. It was a cycle observed in the real world, the notes of someone who watched empires rise, peak, and decay from within. Welcome to the world of finance and history. Here, money, power, and history collide, and nothing is ever as simple as it seems. In the 14th century, while Europe struggled with plague, wars, and feudal fragmentation, a North African thinker quietly wrote what may be the most accurate description of economic cycles ever produced. His name, Ibn Khaldun. Centuries before Adam Smith, Keynes, or modern macroeconomics, he explained why economies expand, why states grow bloated, and why they eventually collapse under their own weight. He was born in 1332, in what is now Tunisia. The world around him was anything but stable. Dynasties rose and fell rapidly. Cities prospered overnight and emptied just as quickly. Plague wiped out populations with brutal efficiency. Power constantly shifted between rulers, tribes, and factions. This was not a calm environment for abstract theorizing. It was chaos, and that chaos became his laboratory. He was not an academic detached from reality. He served in royal courts. He advised rulers. He watched governments mismanage wealth, overtax their people, lose legitimacy, and then act surprised when everything unraveled. Over time, he noticed something unsettling. The story was always the same. Names were different. Religions were different. Geographies were different. But the cycle never changed. Discipline turns into comfort. Comfort turns into luxury. Luxury turns into decline. What makes Ibn Khaldun still so relevant today is this. Economic systems are not machines. They are social organisms. They live on trust, cohesion, incentives, and shared belief. When these weaken, no amount of gold reserves can save the structure. At the center of his thinking was a concept called asabiyyah. It can be loosely translated as social cohesion or group solidarity, but economically it is far deeper. It means trust, shared interest, the willingness of people to cooperate and sacrifice for something larger than themselves. Ibn Khaldun observed that societies with strong cohesion were productive, resilient, and capable of generating wealth even with limited resources. When trust exists, people work harder. Institutional order is preserved. Norms that support long-term stability are maintained. Wealth follows for this reason. Over time, success changes behavior. As wealth accumulates, elites drift away from the productive base that created it. Rulers become detached from the people. Bureaucracy expands. Positions are inherited rather than earned. The discipline that built the system softens. Comfort replaces necessity. Cohesion weakens. This was not a moral criticism. Ibn Khaldun was not accusing societies of laziness. He was describing incentives. When survival is no longer urgent, behavior changes. Risk-taking declines. Innovation slows. Using existing wealth becomes easier than producing new value. The state begins to live off past success. This dynamic is most visible in taxation. In a state's early period, taxes are low. People work, trade, and invest. Because rewards outweigh burdens, the economy expands and revenue grows. As the state matures, expenses rise. Courts expand, armies grow, bureaucracies thicken. Taxes increase. At first, revenue continues to rise. But after a certain point, high taxes discourage production. People work less. Trade shrinks. The tax base erodes. To maintain revenue, the state raises taxes again. Each increase accelerates the decline. The state weakens not because it taxes too little, but because it tries to extract too much from a shrinking economy. Centuries before the term existed, he was describing diminishing returns. And perhaps the strongest part of his insight is this. He was neutral. He did not say low taxes are good. He did not say high taxes are evil. He said incentives matter. When people believe effort will not be rewarded, they withdraw. When capital is extracted faster than it can regenerate, the system weakens. States collapse not from lack of authority, but from exhausting the source of their own strength. One of his most striking insights was this. Markets reflect people before they reflect numbers. Prices move because confidence moves. Productivity rises when incentives align. Collapse does not begin suddenly. It begins with subtle shifts: less trust, more extraction, weaker social cohesion. Ibn Khaldun did not believe cycles could be prevented, but he believed they could be understood. Awareness does not stop decline, but it removes illusion. And clarity is the closest thing to control humans ever achieve. If he were alive today, he would not be impressed by screens, financial instruments, or complex models. He would look at incentives, trust, power, and what he saw would feel familiar. Modern society likes to believe progress is linear. Each generation assumes it has solved instability. Better data, better policy, better institutions. But the cycle does not disappear, it accelerates. Today, asabiyyah appears as trust in institutions, confidence in currency, respect for rules, and willingness to cooperate. When it is strong, economies grow. When it weakens, everything becomes short-term and transactional. And this is where the cycle begins again. Perhaps Ibn Khaldun's most unsettling insight is this: decline is not the result of a lack of intelligence. It is the result of success. The forces that create wealth eventually erode the conditions that made it possible. So what does this mean for the individual? Understanding cycles does not make you immune to them, but it changes how you interpret them. You stop mistaking peaks for permanence. You stop confusing scale with stability. You recognize when incentives are shifting. This is where real financial freedom begins. Not in perfect predictions, but in humility. Because systems are temporary, trust is fragile, and social cohesion is more valuable than any asset class. You don't need to outrun the cycle. You only need to stop being surprised by it. Ibn Khaldun did not predict the future. He removed its mystery. And he reminded us of one thing. Beneath every market, every state, and every economic system lies a single fragile foundation: trust. When trust holds, prosperity follows. When trust fractures, decline begins quietly, long before the headlines arrive. If this perspective gave you a new way of seeing the world, don't forget to subscribe. History has the answers. I'll show you where to look.